Now what I'm doing, I'm sewing quite fast, and I'm just putting like a line on the edge, so a bit of shading. I'm just putting a bit of shading on the edge just to bring out the flower. So if I slowed it down and did every single stitch, I'd lose some of the fluidity of it. So I'm putting my fingers stretched onto here. You're not going to sew your fingers because the needle's going up and down, and my fingers are nowhere near the end of the embroidery foot. So I'm just literally, the movement's in the end of my fingers, nice and relaxed. And it is literally as if I'm just shading with a pencil. The movement's in this bit of your hand. It's good when you're doing anything this fine to keep taking breaks because it's quite heavy on your eyes. There you go.
And these are eyes, these are child's eyes all around here. They look like, as you said, peacock feathers or owl's eyes. I don't know if you can just about see them. But that's actually a child's face. And there's lips and noses in there somewhere.
So what I want to do with these is not only just digitally print them, try different techniques really. So there's the hand techniques, hand sewing, machine sewing, lots of different printing techniques like flocking, foiling, and combine them together so it's not just a flat surface really, so it's a bit more interesting than that. So you look at them and you think, oh, nice lacy pattern, and then you realise it's actually a bit more poignant than that. It's about the terrible plight of the women and the children.
So that's, yeah, explain a bit about why you've chosen the Family Museum.
I just went to see the exhibition. It was recommended to me by Andrew Salmon from the Knitting and Stitching, and the objects actually got me more than the swatches of cloth left by the women, so they could pin them to the children that they were leaving behind. Either they'd been there, couldn't afford to look after the children, terrible circumstances, or some of them had gone to prison. And the stories, I mean, we both got speaking to one of the ladies that had researched the project, and she traced what had happened to some of the children, some of the mothers, and it was just so, it was one of those, you know, you look at quite a clinical display, and then you look at the works or the objects that they'd
tiny
left.
little bits of fabric that they cut out of their dresses, or little tokens, little buttons and things, and they'd written little messages on them for their children to remember them by.
So if they
went back to claim them, they didn't always go back, didn't very often go back.
No. Again, you're going to keep sewing, keep moving the work all the way around. So no particular line is picked out, it's just the whole area of an explosion of the flowers. So I always use machine stitch. My work's very heavily machine stitch, but this, because it's print as well, I want all the print, the machine embroidery, all the layering to work together, so that's what we're starting to build in. So what I'd do is then I'd highlight just some of the areas in the middle. So I'm just going to lift my thread up and move into the middle of the flower now, so it's working the middle bit. Okay, so into the middle bit. Now I think it'd be quite nice at this stage if I pick out some of the green and the black working together. So I'm going to do this by putting the green on the bottom of the bobbin. So I do this, I put the green that I've picked out before, here we go, thread just a bit on. It's just like keep changing a colour palette when you're doing a painting. There we go. Okay, we'll click off when it's finished. There you go. Now, I want the green to come up, so I've got the two colours together. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put the green in the bobbin case, but this time, instead of allowing it to be balanced like this, I'm going to loosen the tension on this bobbin. So you can do this with a little screwdriver. There we go, let's see, one of these little flat-headed screwdriver. and I'm going to turn it anti-clockwise, just a tiny bit. Now if you haven't got many bobbins, I suggest you do this over the desk or another colour. I'm just going to do this to loosen it. Now you don't want it so loose that the screw falls out, but you just want a bit of the colour coming up. So you're allowing, by loosening it, the tension off, the thread to come up. And obviously you test a bit on a bit of fabric first, but I'm not going to. So the green underneath, the black on top. Tighten the thread on top by moving it towards the plus. Pick up your thread. I'm going to show you on a piece of fabric what this does, just because it'll be easier to see. Okay, I'm going to show you on a white background because it's easier to see. I've got the top thread black, bottom thread green, whipping stitch. The green thread is going to come up really loose and the black thread is tighter, and literally just draw. How slowly you move the needle will mean more of these wonderful green lumps come up. But you can literally draw with a sewing machine like a pen and you get a fantastic result. That's a bit too tight on the machine then, and if that happens, just thread it back up again. Here we go. So when you've got it how you like, with enough green, enough black coming through, practice, do it on the real thing. You get this wonderful effect where the two threads are working together. Okay. I would build these up and build these up and build these up until it's no stop Liberace me. But what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a cheese grater and some wax crayons, and I'm just going to, as if like you highlight with a watercolour, I'm going to, on the back of this flower, I'm just going to grate where there's some gaps. I'm going to grate some wax crayons. I'm going to go all the way round. Obviously I wouldn't then use it in cooking. Might. And I'm going to keep going like this into areas. There we go. So if you push it into the areas that you want, you know that the wax is going to be. So I'm going to aim this wet here, so as if I want a green splodge here. And then again, lovely greaseproof paper. Whack the greaseproof paper on. Use the heat to melt it, and you're just going to use the hot iron to spread the areas of the wax you want on the plastic. You can't go wrong with this. If you make a mistake, you put a hole in it, just whack another bit of plastic underneath and just sew into it. That's half the fun of this kind of thing. There's no wrong or right way. Let it cool, and then you're going to peel off the greaseproof paper and see what colours have gone on onto the print. Okay, peel this off when it's cool, and you can see you're starting to build the areas off where the wax is sticking to the image. And then on this side, which is the real side, you start to get layers building up. So it is look like a beautiful peacock's feather. Obviously now this could do for window transparencies. This is going to be an installation piece, so it won't be washed because the wax would not stay on. Okay, keep building it up till you get the effect you want. But I just thought, you know, we're both mothers, and the thought of just leaving your child and they gave them names as well, and the children didn't always have the names, did they? They were given a new start really. But it just struck me that it was just such a moving exhibition. I wanted to create something that was beautiful, trying out different techniques, because I've worked mainly in machine embroidery. That's what my work's known for. But I wanted to just play with everything really. But I wanted to make these huge panels, and usually my work would be more narrative than that. So I wanted to hide the meaning. So I was looking at people like Timorous Beasties, where they'd taken a print, and then it's only when you look close you go, okay, that's someone being shot. Nice. But that's what I wanted it to be, you know, a bit of a double-edged effect of it, really. Okay.
Okay. And can we conclude this a bit, please? So round it off, so it's not just as open as it is.
The project is going to tour, and we're hoping to run workshops at the Knitting and Stitching Show. And we'd like it to tour, to do workshops with all ages really, but we'd like a bit more of a community feel about it, because I work in quite a community way with my work. I'd like it to go into schools and people just have fun creating their own pieces based on the Founder Museum, or based on images or relationships they have with each other, really. So it's a starting point.
Yes.
For ways of working, and
Yes.
amalgamating lots and lots of different techniques. So it's not just about textiles, it's mixing textiles with metal, or textiles with ceramics, or textiles with anything, really. It's just seeing, the idea is just seeing a design process, so from initial ideas through to a finished product, because it's such a skill, not just for young people in schools, but for anyone to learn. And also the topic's quite poignant, really.